Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another exciting episode of the Beast Game Files where we are going to deep dive in to the amazing drama on episode 3. I am here with my great friend Jeff831. Say hey, Jeff.
Hey there, episode 3, a little drama, pretty wild. You're in for a fun one.
This is just insane. I'm Jeremy991, and if you've been following along at all through this series on Amazon Prime, you know that episode 2 left on this insane cliffhanger where four teams had to pick captains and send them up to a tower, and Jimmy said over and over and over again that he is going to bribe them and offer them more money than they can handle to eliminate their entire team. And Jeff and I were actually on Team Yellow, and I was one of the captains. That all I had to do was just tap this button,
Beep.
and I could take the money. Jeff, what were you thinking when I was up there,
Oh,
man?
it was you were the best person, obviously by results too, for our team to choose. But I know you. Like I know you would never let someone put their trust in you and then you to kind of squander it. But that was one of my most exciting moments of the games because I knew you well. I was a pillar mate with Tawana 830, and I know she is just rock solid. And then Harrison 251, it was a great guy who I spent hours with. So I'm like, I just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm getting to watch three kind of good friends up there, see what they're made of. And geez, you guys certainly showed it.
It was incredible. Like I don't recall making myself captain. I didn't volunteer for that position, so to have it be chosen by the group was awesome. And I've been getting a lot of comments. How high was that temptation? What was it like? I was honestly, I'm up there and I'm enjoying the view. And Jimmy is screaming. Mac is running around screaming. At one point, Jimmy actually literally crumbles and falls on the floor. And I remember walking up the stairs, just a massive amount of stairs to get to the roof. And it was Dino and I. And Carl was walking us up, and he just kept saying over and over again, "You guys are not prepared for how crazy this is going to get." But I had it in my mind, like I'm looking down. There's you, there's Jordan, there's Tim, there's Queen, there's Daphne, there's Dallin, there's Chris. Just our team was so
Yeah.
stacked with
Yeah.
just incredible people.
Yeah, it's and it was neat. I mean, Queen did an awesome job of kind of you know, propping you up and then kind of, quelling anybody's angst. And I went around and kind of said, "Hey, we're good. Like, trust me, we're okay." So like I feel like our team had a sense of peace. It also helped that the ball dropped on our side. We thought we were going home. Then it gets reversed. So we feel like we're on borrowed time. We just have this kind of strong sense of camaraderie. And it was we were remarkably at peace, but it was wild to watch.
It was really cool. Like again, I'm looking down and I couldn't imagine stealing this dream from you guys for my own financial well-being. Like I can't imagine going home to my wife and kids and being like, "Hey, we've got this massive amount of money now. We're going to be able to buy the house that we've been trying to close on for years, and we're going to have this financial security." But it came at the cost of Dad, breaking his word and backstabbing all of these remarkable people. I know it's a game. I know it's a game, and I know we were there to win money, but I'm not willing to jeopardize my character in those moments. And as everyone's screaming, that number's getting higher and higher. And I hadn't even looked back at the big screen yet. And I just wanted to see what it looked like. Jimmy screaming, it's going up by $2,000 every second.
Do you
Um,
remember where it was when you look back?
I think it was like maybe $800,000. And again, it's just this button. And like looking back, it's super wild to think about. Again, just push a button and
I
just to have that wealth. But knowing your backstory, knowing the reason that you're here, I don't know if we've talked about that much, but knowing that you're not here for selfish gains, you're here to help find a cure for your son.
Yeah.
And again, to just think about what that would feel like to rip that away is just insane. So I love the fact that as that statement, I love that they used that in the edit because I mean, you were on my heart heavy.
Well, yeah, and everybody's got their reason, you know, money, $100,000, $50,000 is not going to find a cure for my son. But more and more people who understand what this disease is could, and so for me, it's always like I need to survive in advance. And again, I felt so at peace with you up there. Like there was not a doubt in my mind, and I just and I'm telling you, the rest of the team felt really, really good too. Obviously, there were some people who didn't, you know, naturally a little bit skeptical and don't know you very well. But I'd say writ large, it was everybody was pretty supportive.
Well, it's hard, when you go from 2,000 people in Vegas to 1,000 people on platforms to 500 people in the city to 240 something, the next day. It's still so hard to know everyone. And, even being on that platform, there's still people that, we weren't able to make that bond. But I do want to take a second, just because we mentioned it. I would really love for you to talk about your son's condition a little bit. And again, your motivation of getting into this show and your desire to continue.
Yeah, I applied for Beast Games, kind of pretty much for one simple reason was to try to raise awareness and raise money, or earn money. Try to earn $5 million to find a cure for my son Lucas, who's got a rare brain disease called creatine transporter deficiency. He's one of 400 people in the world with it. Um, Currently, there's no treatment, no cure. So, over the last handful of years, I've done kind of unique things with fundraising. Big long walks, written songs to try to raise awareness and funds. And this was kind of just the next step in the chapter for me. And until there's a cure, until there's a treatment, I'm going to continue to fight. And he is a sweet, sweet little boy, a 7-year old. Um, and he brings so much joy to our family and everybody around him. But the biggest gift I can give to him is fight to try to find a cure.
I love that, man. I love that heart. There's no selfish ambition for you being here in these games. And man, yeah, that feeling of standing there with three other people that I didn't know super well, and I knew I wasn't going to hit the button. I had zero temptation to hit the button. I'd given you guys my word, and I wasn't going to compromise that. But honestly, I was a little shocked that the other three didn't as well, and I was so excited. I remember going up there and telling them, let's show the world that integrity exists and that we have the ability to put others before ourselves. This isn't going to be our only chance in this game. Yes, it might be the only chance in my entire life to be able to get $1 million by something so simple, but um, to be able to show this example to the world meant so much more to me. And I hope this is something that's talked about for years, and not about me, but just about what was done. That these people put others first, and a bunch of comments on my social media is I would have hit the button so fast, I would have broken, I would have tricked everybody, and I would have fooled everyone into making me the captain just so I could have taken the money. And again, it is a game, and I can't be upset at that. And I understand people's motivations, but again, I look down and I see, some true relationships and bonds that I've made, and I could never break that.
And it was a big shift in the games. It kind of showed that, integrity and character matter. And I kind of felt like that kind of continued on for a little bit. We had a day. I mean, the cubes got a little nasty, but it just, at least for me, it felt like, oh my gosh, this is really, really cool. I never, I'd hope that was the outcome, but I never expected it.
Yeah, it was wild, and I think you're right. I think overall in this game there was an incredibly high level of respect. Where, going into something like this, you're always a little nervous, like, man, is there going to be just so many people that are going to be cutthroat and nasty, and you don't want to, a quote unquote villain, to kind of win this huge prize at the expense of everyone else by just playing dirty. So I think this set a really incredible precedent. And I remember Brennan, coming up to me, he's like, "How are you gonna sleep tonight?" And I just went amazing, and I slept so great.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And then what it doesn't actually show in episode 3 is we had a day to relax the following day, where essentially we were able to sleep. We didn't have to worry about a challenge. You're always on edge. You always think there's going to be something that comes up, but we went to bed and we hung out. We did a huge Bible study, um, where I thought we'd have what, maybe 10 or 15 people, but we had 150 people show up to that Bible study.
It was like 60% of everybody left.
So, I mean, that was remarkable.
It's
And
cool.
then Chris, our good friend Chris, he actually orchestrated a dance party where he was able to get a whole bunch of people together, and he had the Beast team where they were able to actually get music and speakers, and a bunch of people enjoyed that, and then kind of built those bonds a little tighter together. And then the following day, so we wake up the next morning and we're all in just this terrific mood. Like, we had a fun day with no games, and then the glass case is off of the money, and Jimmy's standing on top of the money saying, "We're going to play a game just for fun with a reward and no consequence, and team up with 2 people." So we ended up getting into teams of 3. And again, we're all in just this incredible mood. And he's telling us it's going to be a sack race. So we're going to have to jump into this burlap sack, go across the field and back the short ways. And whoever, all 3 people need to make it through like a relay. And I had some weird feelings about it. Where the one thing that we've learned about Mr. Beast is you never know what to expect. He promises us if you win, there's a reward. So find people that you feel you could be good roommates with. And in the side of the city, there's this villa from T-Mobile, and it's got a couple beds and a pool table, but we don't know that at the time, but it's just this amazing place with privacy. Up until this point, I think the bunkhouses are holding, 50 plus people each. And, there's the hint of like what else could be in there. I mean, this is Mr. Beast. There could be the $1 million that we just turned down sitting in that villa for the 3 people that win. So you go into it really wanting to win this thing. Like, when you heard that, what was your strategy and why did you pick the people you did?
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, think about the night before, which was Team Yellow. Before that was us on the fourth floor. So like I am totally kind of intertwined with that team. Like we went through a lot. So Chris and I caught eyes. We're like, okay, of course, you and I are going to be together. So Chris, 204, and I, and we've known each other since Vegas. We went through some awesome stuff in Vegas together. And we said, okay, we need to choose a third. Who do we want to choose? And we wanted to choose someone on our alliance and kind of looked around to see who was available. And we chose 808. And she hadn't been a part of a group yet. So it was kind of a fit. But then we kind of like start like thinking, okay, to your point, like this is maybe a little too good to be true. And 808, 204, myself, we're all fairly athletic. So I'm like, hey, if it's a game, like we got a shot. Like this is cool. Um, but again, like through my mind, I started thinking about, okay, this is Mr. Beast. It's gonna get nasty. What's it gonna be? So I always had something weird in the back of my mind while we're doing that potato sack race, but I haven't done a potato sack race in 30 years. So it was just a blast to do. I thought we had a shot, but then I look around and there are some people who are humming. It was exciting.
Man, so I had a feeling that something was up, and I wanted to make sure, win or lose, or no matter what was happening, I was going to be with people I really liked and respected. And Gage, he was on my row from episode 1. And there was one point in time where rumor of needing a captain for a row went around. And I remember a bunch of our row kind of advocated for me to be that leader. And I just kind of made a point to get to know a lot of the people in that late 900 row. Aaron, the gentleman that sacrificed himself on floor two so they could win. He was one of those gentlemen. Daphne, she was in my row. We had Eric and
Are
Brian,
you
just
serious?
JMO,
Wow.
all kinds of just phenomenal people. But we had one night where there was some logistical issues with our transportation where we just had a whole bunch of time to bond and to get to know each other, which was great. And I was really, really wanting to get to know Gage so much better because we hit it off right away. So I saw Gage and I was like, man, I want to be on a team with you. Let's do this thing. And for those of you that haven't seen much of Gage yet, I mean, he is an absolute top tier athlete. I mean, he is jacked out of his mind, just absolutely ripped, just incredible runner. And I was like, okay, this really good chance. And then Mark, who is another incredible athlete, him and I met in Vegas and we spoke a few times and we really got along with each other, but we didn't have much time to bond tight. So I was like, this is going to be a really good opportunity, where, I'm not with some people I've known for the entire time. We're going to be able to bond. If win or lose, we're doing it together and we can respect each other and no one's going to be mad at each other. But I was definitely the weakest link for this potato sack race. My main goal was I just don't want to trip. I've got to have a smooth transition. I don't want to fall on my face. And that way, Mark and Gage actually have a chance. Because
Well,
again, like you can like they're amazing athletes, are they not?
I mean, yeah, Mark 747 was right next to me in the pillars. Just an absolute stud. Like I literally like every time I see him like dude, like what peptides are you on? Like how are you so fit? Um and Gage is a specimen of an athlete too. So yeah, you chose wisely. You definitely you definitely gave yourself a leg up.
Yeah, I was thrilled. Again, I felt bad. I was definitely the weakest link in that, but I gave it my all. I didn't fall down. I'm laughing the whole time. My beard is parted with the biggest smile you could see. Because again, it's just, when's the last time you're going to do this? You know what I mean? As an adult, would you have in your lifetime, would you think, oh yeah, I'm going to definitely do a sack race again? I mean,
No,
maybe it was my kids.
like you have this surprise, gift or, award of, people are making up, yeah, immunity or something special. And everybody, I mean, who doesn't want to win a prize, especially from Mr. Beast?
Yeah, I had a really good inclination that there would be immunity. And in this game, you make it through one competition just to get into another, into another, into another, and just the numbers get like broke down drastically. And I had a fear that the next one was going to be really bad because we didn't take the money. We didn't eliminate a ton of people. So I assumed that this next thing was going to be brutal. But we lost. I have no idea where we placed. I would like to say, thanks to, Mark and Gage, we probably placed okay, but it didn't matter. We didn't win. But to my absolute delight, you've got Ozzy, you've got Nelly, you got Jamal that that won. And they
Yeah.
beat out Dallin, Jordan, and who was with them? Who was with
Dylan.
Dallin and Jordan? Dylan?
Dylan. Yep.
Yeah. So there was two rounds. What you don't see in the show is there was two rounds of this game because there was still so many of us. They had us lined up. There'd be one heat. One person won that heat. Then the next round went, and then there was a winner of the second heat. And whoever had the best time out of the two, they took it home. Jordan, Dallin, and Dylan actually won the heat that I was in. And then Nelly and Ozzy and Jamal won the second heat,
Yeah, I
and they
was in the second
demolished.
heat. Yeah.
You were heat too?
I was heat too.
Like, did you feel like you guys were close?
Yeah, I felt like we had a chance. I was hoping they would have several heats, like, oh, okay, the top 10 from this are now going to compete against each other. Like that was my hope. Um, but no, it's just they took the top two from each, and whoever had the best won.
So it was fun to see just that joy in Nelly and Ozzy and Jamal, but it was also sad because you had Jordan, Dallin, and Dylan that were all so excited, and all of a
Oh,
sudden it just like got ripped from them.
they totally thought they were going to win, or it would be 1v1. Like that's like worst case scenario, I thought it would be okay, the winner of the first heat against the winner of the second heat, and like everybody's watching it. But nope, immediately crowned those three the winner. And then yeah, this is when it got weird.
Yeah, they swept them away to the villa, which was great. There's that high level of excitement. And then they kept driving home friendship, friendship, friendship. And you see it in the episode, but they were doing that in real life. They'd come up and you felt they were prompting you. You could see it after I think a lot of people had, you know, chosen their teams. And I feel like I had an inside look because where we were placed for the sack race, we were actually right next to the gate. So there's the bleachers, there's the gate, and there's like this little place in the city in between, like a little walking path into the back of the buildings. And all of a sudden, I see a lot of handcuffs, even before we were done with the sack race. And I was like, I looked at Gage and Mark, and I was like, I think we're together for a while, guys.
Yeah, and when and again, you're not the only one who sees it. And when someone sees it, people, it's a telephone game. And then I'm,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're gonna be together for days. Like that's where my mind went.
I mean, I like that idea. Again, I picked two just absolute incredible guys. Like if I was chained to them and we were competing as a team for the rest of the show, I would
Yeah,
have no regrets on my decisions.
yeah, you would have had a sweet team.
No regrets on that. But then we find out that we're getting handcuffed together and that we're going to leave and go into this bunker and we're not all coming back. And then that dread just set in that the three of us are now competing against each other. And Gage kind of jokingly and lovingly goes, I'm so mad at you for picking me as we like hug each other because it's like we made the decision, we stand by it, but it was just like, man, we have so much respect for each other. And again, I still know Mark, but I don't know him super well. But I'm looking around and there's people that, they've been like ride or die since Vegas and they're already just crying and just
It's
already devastated.
well, especially when Jim, Mr. B says that at the very most, two of you will come back. So
Yeah,
like,
at the
in
most.
my mind, I'm like, is there a way we can figure this out? And then that all three of us, but like he says that, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be cutthroat.
Talk me through what it was like for you guys. Like the
Yeah.
handcuffs
So
come out.
once handcuffs come out, and Chris is stoic, just solid leader, and he kind of goes quiet.
Yeah, Chris is very stoic. And I think something that's worth noting for people is Chris is a retired officer where he served for many, many years. So he is very in control of his emotions. He's very in control of his adrenaline. And on top of that, now he's working as a professional photographer and his work is phenomenal. He does sports. And when you're in that line of work, I do videography and photography as well, but not in sports. I do more wildlife stuff, but I would equate wildlife and sports being very similar to each other, where you have like one moment to capture that moment. So for Chris to be able to take that stoic behavior and to be able to hold his emotions while he's doing sports photography and MMA or NFL football. And the cool thing is, I was actually looking at Chris's Instagram today, and he's got some incredible photos from the Raiders Stadium where we were actually there for Vegas. So you've got Chris with this just insane attitude, and I'm honestly I'm really curious to what his thought and maybe his emotions were by being the person that was having the handcuffs put on him.
Yeah, versus him putting the handcuffs on somebody. Yeah, no, it's I I would love to talk to Chris. We need to get Chris on here. Um, yeah, it was super interesting. He goes quiet, then kind of 808 was quiet too. I think everybody was just kind of thinking through their head like, what's next? How's this going to work out? Um, and we were like the second group, kind of. So like we were kind of part of the fanfare too, where we had to get some shots and. we got to see things, we got to go through the tunnel and there's smoke and we see this giant white room with these red cubes and like, what is this? Like, and again, I was still thinking I'm gonna be in here for 24 hours or more. And and kind of like you, I'm going, that's fine by me. Like I cannot eat, I cannot drink, I cannot go to the bathroom. Like I can do whatever I need to do for 24 hours. Um, but then we get the rule set and it was like, oh my gosh, like what is this? Like, um, well, first we walk into the room and we see the kind of the red phone with a metal band with the handcuff. And again, I still didn't know what the heck we were going to do. And on the phone, it reads, "Ask for anything." So, like, did you remember when you walked in? Do you remember how you felt? Like, what were you thinking? Were you guys talking to each other?
We were pretty quiet for a while. Mark was really, really quiet. Um, I I wouldn't say I'm claustrophobic, but I don't like being restrained. So I just remember, politely asking the gentleman, like, I'm not being handcuffed in the middle because otherwise I'm going to be driving you. Like, I'm not going to be in the middle. And they were really cool about that. But Mark was pretty quiet. Gage was quiet. We're pretty somber. But then, like, we go into the hallway with all that smoke and the lights,
Yeah.
and like, I got excited just by the new set. And I'm going, you know what? Gonna do this the way we've done everything else. Like we're gonna play honest, we're gonna play fair, we're gonna just bond with each other. And we're going in and I'm trying to pull that lighthearted spirit out of myself. And we see the cubes and we see like that one hook with a handcuff on the wall, and it's becoming pretty evident of what the rules are at this stage. But in my mind, I'm going, all right, well, there's not going to be a time limit. They're going to just say, you guys stay in here until one of you handcuffs yourself to the wall. And Mark Gage and I are like, cool, we're good for a couple weeks. Let's wait them out. Let's just like do all the stupid guy stuff guys would do. And let's just have fun and just hang around. And still incredibly curious about the phone. I remember us talking about what we think it might actually mean. Like, do you get one call and can you ask for a huge bribe to bribe someone else out, or can you take a prize yourself to leave? And something I don't think we've addressed yet is in the city, there's two massive billboards. I don't know how much it shows it in the show, but there's these huge billboards. They're video billboards, and it has like what would you say, like 1950s graphics.
Yeah. It's a, yeah, you think of like Disneyland in the 50s, like Main Street Disneyland.
And periodically throughout the day, it changes. The image will change. And there's all these things. There's one with a really beautiful island and Jimmy on a jet ski. One of my personal favorites was Jimmy in just this epic looking, like backcountry mudding monster truck. And I'm like, I want that truck. Like, try to buy me out for that exact truck, and I'm gone. And then there was the telephone and an airplane. And, it
And
said,
each of these billboards had taglines to it or slogans, and we're trying to read into it. What does this mean? How can we use this? How can we prepare for it? It was all foreshadowing of all the challenges to come, but never kind of revealed anything. But what did one on the phone say?
well, the phone said, ask for anything. And that was the first time that it became very, very clearly. Yes, we had the idea that it was the foreshadowing for some other challenges. There was rumors of the island, but it was never confirmed. Like we were never told, hey, at some point you're going to go to some crazy island. Like it was rumored. But this was the first time the billboard had come to fruition. No, actually, cups, the big ball throw, like
Yeah.
from floor three. There was something like that on one of the billboards. But so we get in there, we're getting ready to just wait it out. Like I said, and it's so silly, but like I remember one of the first things we did, we all just sat down. Like they took the handcuffs off us once we got in the room. We're kind of joking around how it literally looks like an insane asylum. I'm like, I kind of wish they would have padded the walls, but I'm sure if they did, we would have been like literally bouncing off of them for fun. But we took our shoes off because it was really warm in there. And I ended up taking my shoes off, and I'm like, I'm gonna leave my socks on, guys, because I got some really ugly feet. And Gage is like, "Oh, you think you've got ugly feet?" I was like, "Bro, trust me, my feet are jacked up." And then Mark's like, "You think you got ugly feet?"
No
And
way.
again, these are like incredible athletes that run all the time. I just forced myself through an ultra marathon and my feet just got messed up from it. I was hiking in Nome and like ripped one of my big toenails off. So we ended up like literally taking our socks off and having an ugly foot contest.
I mean, well, I saw that on the episode.
So that's why we were barefoot. That was the first thing we did. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we got in and it was quiet, like again, and we sat down, we talked, and kind of like, hey, like this isn't going to be easy, we were just kind of setting the expectation because it was you're trying to cut the tension, and kind of once we heard the rules about asking for anything, like my mind, I don't know where your mind went, but my mind went, well, can I ask for something that would self help me self-sacrifice? Like, is
Well,
there anything that I could get of value that would make me go, hey, you know what? I'm good. You guys move on.
let's
So my
backpedal
mind's,
real quick because I want to hear, what your thoughts were on that. But I think for those that may be kind of foggy on the rules of this game, and I honestly don't think they explained it very well on the show.
yeah,
I would like to explain through those rules. So we get in there, we have 5 hours. They put a 5 hour timer up. We cannot see the clock. We have no concept of time. They say we may periodically tell you what the time is, but it might not be the right time. And just because we tell you at like the 2 hour mark, it doesn't mean we're ever going to tell you again. So you have that fear and that paranoia. And then they also say, one of you has to handcuff yourself to the wall. If you don't, by the time the timer's up, you're all eliminated. And then they explain the phone. You can ask for anything, but this is what they don't explain in the show. You can't take it with you. So I saw a lot of people asking, why didn't you ask for $1 million? Why didn't you ask for a Tesla? It's like, well, you can't take it with you out of the cube. So yeah,
yeah.
go back to tell me what your
And
thoughts were.
anything you get in the cube, you can't take it out. So yeah, I mean, think of anything tangible, it stays in the cube. So whoever got the horse isn't going home with it. So kind of for me, I'm thinking, okay, what could I ask for that if I received, I'd kind of go, hey, mission accomplished here. I'm going to chain myself. And, I think probably a little kind of naively, I thought that that's what the other two people in my cube would think too. Um, and yeah, I think it quickly got to a point where we realized, gosh, nobody's, the other two people asked for something before me. And I'm like, okay, there's clearly you're not asking for something that would help you choose out. Um, Man, okay, I think this is a different game than I thought. So then I got my chance to ask for something, and I asked for a phone call with Elon Musk. Kind of silly me, and I thought, gosh, Jimmy's giving away so many Teslas, like he's got to be friends with Elon, like he has to be. Um, my ultimate goal was to get on the phone with Elon and ask him to go to dinner sometime in the next year, anywhere in the world. I'll fly there. Dinner's on me because I think if anybody can try to figure out what's going on in Lucas's brain with creatine, and creatine is the energy source of the brain. Tesla is like an energy company. Um, and he has Neuralink, which is in the brain. So I'm like, hey, if I can just bend his ear for an hour, maybe he can think of something that these scientists and researchers never have. So if I would have gotten on the call with Elon and said, hey, I'm taking you to dinner next year, and he goes, oh yeah, of course, I would have handcuffed myself.
I,
Um,
I think we need to just make that a goal in general that we don't give up on.
I'm
Because
not
if
going. No, it's I mean, literally, Chris texted me today, and just we were just going back and forth. And he goes, by the way, in the meantime, I'm going to work on getting you that call with Elon. And I'm like, dude, you are just such a stud.
I love it. So if you're watching this or listening to this podcast and you happen to be friends with Elon Musk, or if you are Elon Musk, please let's do dinner. All right. His phone's
Call me,
right there.
Elon.
What did the Beast team just kind of say okay when you made
Yeah,
that
they they
request?
they kind of said okay, and then like later, like because I didn't ask for anything else for a while. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna have faith. I'm gonna trust that it's gonna happen. Um, and I could feel I could feel myself getting more and more tense. Then I'm like, hey, where's the phone call? And I think someone kind of like looked at me. I don't know if it was a producer, just kind of like, you gotta choose something else. Like, it's not gonna happen.
I I picked up the phone immediately because we had some time from when we heard the rules to when it was time to start. And we had decided very, very, very early, like even before they'd started the timer, that we were gonna flip a pirate coin, a coin that none of us had ever held before. And we were gonna do it once. And whoever had the majority would move on. Whoever had the minority would put themselves into the handcuffs. And after we decided that, because we're like, look, we could play some games, but honestly, we don't know each other that well. And what if someone has, this ability at Uno or Jenga or Monopoly or a video game that, we don't know about and you already have an advantage. So we wanted it to be completely fair. And as men, we shook hands and we trusted each other as men of our word that we would do what we said. And then we were going to take the rest of the time just goofing off, just bonding, trying to put 20 years worth of bonding into 5 hours. We were not going to be in a rush. We weren't going to flip the coin to get the other two out. We were going to enjoy as much time as physically possible with each other. And as soon as I heard the rules of, well, you can't take it with you, I'd been itching for a new tattoo for 10 years, 15 years. And I was like, look, if I just turned down $1 million yesterday, and I go home. I'm going home with a souvenir. So as soon as they opened up that phone line, like I was on it instantly. And I asked for a Bible and a tattoo artist. Because it's like, look, I'm going to be reading the scriptures while I'm in there. I'm going to stay in prayer with these boys. And, we're going to stay calm. We're going to have fun and stay pointed at what's really important. And I'm going to get this tattoo. And Gage, he wanted a guitar. Gage is a phenomenal musician. And also Mark. Mark is an amazing singer.
He's got some pipes.
Like he was singing just this beautiful opera, and then Gage is busting out some stuff, and then Mark wanted some paints or some markers to like decorate the walls, which we actually never got. And we also ordered a massive pile of chicken wings. And what else did we get? But then we ordered the pirate coin. We ordered a bunch of stuff, and what I think people don't see is that again, there's so many of us still at this stage, and some of the requests were wild. Um, but logistically, just pulling it all off, it was hours until we saw anything.
Did you get your tattoo artist right away?
I didn't, and I've got to say it because I was a little bitter. Because someone was like, "Oh no, the tattoo artist is with someone else," and we had a quick bathroom break right before it started, and I remember passing by Jimmy, and I'm like, "I'm gonna order a tattoo artist. Is that even possible?" He's like, "Yeah, we can pull that off." And then when the tattoo artist finally came, which was like at the very end, we had less than an hour left, and I was like, "Oh, hey, did a bunch of people ask for tattoos?" He's like, "No, there was this older jacked guy that wanted a tattoo. Just like I was like, really? And I'm like trying to think of who it was. He's like pretty calm guy, like really muscular. And then come to find out, it was Chris.
Was Chris did. So, I mean, like again, like to even rewind a little bit back, we sat down, we talked about it. In a perfect world, we wanted to see could anybody get anything of value to choose out. And our intent wasn't to play any games. Our intent was to see if someone could get something to choose out. Well, one person ordered steak and lobster. Chris orders a tattoo artist, and the tattoo artist was there like within like 5 or 10 minutes, like setting it up. And that was sweet to see. I mean, I don't have any tattoos. I've never seen a tattoo done in person. It was awesome. Chris is just, and he got a sweet MrBeast logo with the 204, his number underneath. And so we're kind of sitting there and we're, at this weird little impasse and like nothing's happening. And then we kind of realize, okay, like we don't have a ton of time left. We're probably halfway through. We should probably figure out what we're going to do next. So we started talking about, our stories and kind of what's important to us and why we're here, just to kind of get to know each other. And then eventually we said, hey, like we should probably figure out a game of chance to play. And you know, I think Chris and I, because we're so close, we probably had a little disadvantage because the kind of the third leg knew that, and and she was part of our alliance, but we weren't as close with her as Chris and I. I mean, Chris and I consider him, a dear friend. So she opted to say, you know what, I'm not going to play a game of chance, and even if I did, I'm not sure if I would. I'm not sure how I would respond if I lost. Um, And so we're just at an impasse. And again, in retrospect, like in the moment, I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to play? This is ridiculous. But in retrospect, I realized she was playing the game. She played the game well, knowing that Chris and I care enough about each other that there's zero chance that we would all go down with the ship. Like one of us would sacrifice ourselves for the other to move on.
Yeah, that's
And
hard.
it was, yeah, no, it was hard. And it was just weird emotions that I hadn't felt before, you know? And so eventually, at the end of the day, we tried everything. We tried a lot of things. I even used the phone to have a psychologist come into our room and sit down with us because we're
Oh,
all
cool.
friends. We're part of the same alliance. So I asked for a psychologist to come in. Can you help us get past an impasse so that we can play a game?
Now,
Uh,
before I really want to hear how you guys ended up figuring out that impasse, and I want to hear about who went home. Um, but I also want to show a couple clips because we haven't shown anything of what these cubes look like, and I'd love to find a shot of Chris and his tattoo. But just to give you guys an idea, like if you've seen the show, you have an idea of what we're talking about. But this room, it's an airplane hangar. It's this massive airplane hangar. Everything is just like unnaturally clean white, and now there's these red boxes with black trim, and then we go inside and it's all white. I just want to play a little bit of what that entrance looks like and show some of the stuff in between to give you guys an idea, and then we'll continue to share what the rest of that drama was because as as it continues and as you watch the show, like we're two of a lot of different cubes, and the different ways that people played this game were insanely different. So I think it's worth noting and just sharing some of this. But this is back, like you said, you were one of the first people that went in with Chris. So I think it'd be just fitting to kind of share that real quick. So this is the very beginning of the intro to the cubes. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear this when I hit play. I mean, look at this already. That's Chris right there next to you. And I think, again, it's worth noting, there's this really powerful friendship that you guys have. But it just hit me watching Jordan again. I saw Jordan, Dallin, and Dylan. And to think about that roller coaster that they just had, they just won their heat. They just had the villa pulled away from them. And now they're in a cube and they need to eliminate
and,
one
and,
of
and
them.
and their story, the episode didn't do it justice because at the end they rolled dice, but they played like Mario Kart and like tied. I think Dallin won 494 won the first leg, so it was Dylan versus Jordan, and they tied like three times in a row.
Oh
So
my
the
gosh.
tiebreaker was them rolling dice.
I have, yeah, there's a lot of stories where there was a bunch of different games played. And again, this is the course of 5 hours with all these different cubes. Um, I do want to talk about an absolute legend in the cubes real quick, where I'm scrubbing through while I'm talking to you guys, but we have, again, I was one of the captains. I turned down $1 million. Harrison turned down $1 million. Tawana, Dino. And Harrison was in a cube with Matthew, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name. I think it's 847. Harrison was offered immunity. He was offered a chance to move on instantly. And again, being the man that he is, he turned it down. He
And
said, "I want this to be fair."
I don't know what I would do there. You know what I mean? Like again, I think he earned it. You know, I think he earned it. Yeah, I would hope I would do what Harrison did, but honestly, I just don't know. You know, if 808 and 204 said to me, "Hey, like if I was a captain, hey Jeff, like you were on our team, you sacrificed, you didn't take the $1 million. We're gonna flip between us." It would be really hard for me to just go, okay. I hope I would, but I'm just being honest.
I mean, it is that hard line because again, his sacrifice was huge, and again, respect for the gentleman in his cube because their cube was the only one that offered that. I'm with Gage and I'm with Mark. And again, we were very clear, like we're not going to try to put each other's goals. I'm not going to try to make my goals look bigger than your goals and, downplay what this game means to you. So we were pretty clear early on. I did jokingly say, after I ordered the tattoo artist, I'm like, look, if one of you want to self-eliminate, I'll get a little teardrop with your number tattooed right here on my cheek. And for my wife, thank goodness no one decided to do that. But
Totally. That
um
would have been a riot. 974 dripping from your eye.
oh man. But I again just ultimate respect for Harrison and doing that and just, continuing to play through. Um and I'm just gonna continue down this topic where they played a bunch of games trying to figure out how they were going to eliminate each other. And ultimately, their fate was sealed by a sandwich.
Crazy. I know. It's just too funny. Like who thought? I want to know. I bet you it was 803 Matthew thought of that, but who thought of that? That's a riot.
They randomly ordered sandwiches and they said put more meat on one of the sandwiches than the other. And they all opened up their sandwiches. One sandwich had two pieces of meat. Another sandwich had two pieces of meat, and the third sandwich was handed out, and it was Harrison's, and it had four pieces of meat. And he just takes a bite, starts eating it. He doesn't panic. He walks over, handcuffs himself to the wall, and Jimmy comes over as he's sitting on the floor, handcuffed, still munching on his sandwich, and goes, "Do you regret giving up the $1 million yesterday or the day before?" And he goes, "No, I was happy with who I was before the $1 million, and I'm happy with who I am right now."
Yeah. It's again, it's I got to know Harrison before any of this stuff, and it was like, oh, I felt like I saw someone who's tons of years younger than me, but someone who I can look up to. It was really, really cool to go, wow, you are a solid, solid man.
Truly. And I feel like there was a lot of cubes that played a very, very respectable game. And the hard part is with us being in the cube, I'm scrubbing through some other sections here as I'm talking, but
And
we,
I'll probably retell my story too a little bit.
cool. Yeah, please. I definitely want to hear more. I just want to make sure we didn't, yours is going to be that cliffhanger at the end that we want to keep people around for. There were definitely people that weren't playing a very honorable game. There was a lot of people that were, kind of going back on their word. And again, it is a game. They were very, very clear that you didn't have to do it. Like if you decided last minute that you didn't want to eliminate yourself, you don't have to. And we had one of the players from Yellow Team. I'm not gonna say names, but I'll let you guys watch the show. But there's a gentleman on Yellow, and they played a game where they were throwing bottle caps. And if you missed the first one to miss the bottle cap into the bag would self-eliminate. And this gentleman missed, and the other two people made it. And then he refused to handcuff himself. Ultimately, fast forward the 5 hours, now there's fighting happening the whole time, and he's just refusing to eliminate himself, and he eliminated the entire team. Um, right when Jimmy announced that we had to pick a captain that you could trust that wouldn't be bribed out of the game, he actually stepped up
Yeah, I
for
don't
our
remember that.
team.
That's crazy.
He stepped up for our team and was wanting to be a captain, but then um, the support that rallied behind me kind of overshadowed that. But he wasn't very happy that he didn't get that captain role. And I'm watching the show back, and again, did not realize this until watching the episode. But if he would have gone up there, we wouldn't have even made it to cubes.
No, no, yeah, we it's totally. And this is what's so crazy about the games is how so many things happen or have to happen for you to continue to advance. Like it's wild. It's wild how it works out. Yeah, and that one like so number 1,000, which I love that jersey number, was Shanice, who her and I became close on the Pillars. And it's just I never knew her story. I just knew I never saw her again, and I had no clue what happened until I watched the episode, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And again, I can't, I don't even know what I would feel if I were Shanice. Like, if like, hey, we're gonna play a game, we all agree to it, and you lose. It's like, what? What do you mean you're not gonna do it? So it was so that happened in I think several cubes.
I think in total there were 7 cubes that everyone got eliminated because they weren't able to come to an agreement
Yeah.
or to honor what they said they were going to do. And again, it is a game, and there's a lot of gameplay. And I guess I do want to go back and to your story there, um, because it's super powerful. I feel like the way that game was played, but as I was scrubbing to try to find Chris's tattoo, I accidentally just found my tattoo. So I want to share that because what you don't see at part of this tattoo is is Gage is playing the guitar for me, just jamming out, sitting in the corner. And for a while, Mark was literally doing a handstand and singing opera. So he's in this corner doing a handstand, singing opera. Gage playing guitar. I'm getting a random tattoo, reading the Bible.
How stinky is that cube with all your shoes off?
Oh, it was terrific. It was perfect. It was great. It was great. But like this is something that I will forever have. Like if people haven't seen this show, like Two Truths and a Lie, or this is something that I could say that no one's gonna believe.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
this
got this tattoo while, a couple hundred million people end up watching it as someone's doing a handstand, singing opera and everything like this. And this guy, Gab, couldn't pronounce his name very well, but he did a great job on this tattoo, like really quickly as well. But
that's something I noticed with Chris too, is that, I mean, the tattoo was so fast and it was so good.
I mean, I was nervous when he arrived because it took a while for us to get him. Like I said, it was literally in the last hour when he entered the room, and we have no concept of time. And my biggest fear was, oh man, like I really want this tattoo, but I don't want to get our whole team eliminated in the middle of the tattoo. Like the Beast team, if they don't say anything after that hour, all of a sudden we're in the middle of the tattoo, laughing, having a good time, and then all of a sudden we're done.
I'm
Tattoo artist leaves, tattoo's half done, and we're all heading home. But yeah, so Chris got his tattoo done. You called um, a therapist to see if they could actually resolve stuff, and how did
Yeah,
things
no, it
progress?
was we were at a total impasse where, it was it was just kind of getting super tense. I mean, Chris literally just gets a tattoo. Um, no one is getting anything of value that will help them decide to choose out. Again, like I didn't, I was still, and I was just honestly, I was naively hoping that I'd get a phone call from Elon Musk. So eventually we kind of go, gosh, we're a part of an alliance. Like we should play a game of chance, and whoever's the odd one out goes home. And um, not everybody wanted to play. Chris and I were willing to play. 808 was not. And again, like in retrospect, I realized like she was playing the game. Chris and I are close. She can kind of put a wedge between us two, and she's got a lot of power. So I pick up the phone. I hadn't heard it from Elon, so I pick up the phone and I say, "Hey, can you send a therapist or like a family therapist into our cube to try to help us get through this impasse?" And she came in, and I talk about a tough situation for a clinician to be put in, professional. It's like, hey, you need to help us get through this unique situation, and we have like 15 minutes to do it. So she talks us through, kind of gets us in consensus that we're all like, hey, you guys are part of a team. You've helped each other. On the surface, you guys are kind of friends. Would you be willing to play the game? And we just didn't reach a point where everybody's willing to play the game.
Yeah.
So Chris and I knew there's zero chance that we would, kind of all go down with the ship. And, we're not stubborn enough to kind of go, okay, well, if we're not gonna play a game, we're all going home. So Chris and I decided, hey, let's just flip for it between you and I. The third one in the queue clearly is not going to play. Let's play. We get a coin, and Chris is like, hey, like, do you want heads or tails? I'm like, hey, tails would be great. So Chris is talking to the camera and says, hey, Jeff and I are going to flip for it to see who stays. He see who goes home. We're going to root each other on. Whoever's not here. Jeff called heads. I'm like, no, no, no. I called tails. And 808 flips it for us. We have her flip it. And I don't look at it. It's on the ground. Chris looks at it, gives me a hug, and says, I love you. I'm out. It was tails. And it was just hard, man. Chris meant a lot to me, but I wasn't the only one. Like Chris meant a lot to everybody. Like Chris was just always that father figure. For me, he was like a big brother who's just always looking out for people, wanting to help. Um, one thing that we didn't talk about the night before the potato sack race was the dance party kind of fun. Kind of felt like a barbecue that we had. We played music, we had steak dinner. Chris was the one who kind of facilitated that. He orchestrated it. So Chris is always helping people. So to lose him that way hurt, and it hurt bad. I remember walking out of the cubes, and I looked like a zombie. I remember going to the holding, and Jordan came up to me. He's like, "Hey, Jeff, can I chat with you?" He goes, "Oh, wow, you look rough too." It was just one of those things where I honestly don't think I ate for 24 hours after. I just didn't have an appetite. It was a weird feeling that I hadn't felt in a long, long time.
It was like I've said it before, but this was truly a savage game. And I find it incredibly accurate. Chris was a guy that meant a lot to a lot of people, and he still does. You know what I mean? He's someone I'll be friends with for life. He's such a gentleman, such an incredible, incredible man. And I find it fascinating, again, like the fact that Chris was the other guy that got the tattoo,
Yeah.
that he was the muscular older gentleman that I had to wait to get the tattoo done for. Um, and I just love that. Again, it just speaks to a lot of the things that him and I have in common, with our photography background and our desire to do something impulsive that, means something to us, that to carry that memory around. And it's funny because now I look at my tattoo and it's like I feel like Chris is my tattoo brother. You know what I mean? It's like I can look at mine and be like, man's got the beast tattoo on his massive bicep. That's why it took so long. If his muscles weren't so big, he wouldn't have taken nearly as long.
I mean, I knew he was in good shape. Not like I'm looking at him too closely. When he got this done, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? How do you get these biceps so big?
Just massive arms. Um, when you guys ended up officially flipping the coin, how much time do you think you had left? Like, what part of the
Yeah.
the game?
So the episode shows that it was early. It wasn't. It was in the final hour for sure.
Yeah.
I want to say it was probably less than a half an hour um to go. And I mean it took us a while to get a coin too,
Yep.
because the phone systems were so many people were asking for stuff. So we eventually had to like flag down the producer in the hallway and say, "Hey, we need a coin. And I think it was Kyle. And he's like, I need this back. If you don't get this, give this back to me. I'm gonna come find you guys. So, thankfully we got it back to him, but like we had a coin. It was a beast coin. Um, but yeah, it was probably half an hour. Chris, you know, immediately wouldn't handcuff himself, of course, like Chris would. Just an absolute stud of a guy. Um, Exit the room, and just again, it was a bizarre feeling for all.
I find it incredibly fascinating as well that you guys ended up doing a coin. And you said you called tails. So we had a beast coin as well. We had the beast logo on one side and then a dollar sign on the other. So was tails the dollar sign,
Gosh, um, it had to have been.
right? Because you'd assume
It,
heads would be the head of the
yeah, it had to have been.
So what I find even more fascinating is again, we waited till the last minute. Gage was actually going to get a tattoo. Um, we had a 1 hour alert before the tattoo artist stepped in, and we're trying to use the tattoo artist to help gauge how much time we have left, and it took like 35 minutes, and we're like, man, we don't have time, unfortunately, which is kind of a bummer. Gage was going to get a cross tattoo, which I thought was so awesome. So I think I need to kidnap him one day and take him to a tattoo studio because I feel like I owe it to him.
That'd be sweet.
And we picked up the coin knowing that there was just a few moments left. And I remember, Jimmy coming into the room and they're waiting to see if I've lost $1 million. And now I've, flipping a coin to get eliminated from the game. And I remember asking the gentleman if I could go last. And in the show, you actually see me go first, but I asked them early on, I'm like, I would like to go last. And they agreed. And Gage flipped a coin and it landed on tails. And then Mark flipped the coin and it landed on heads.
And again, your game was the odd one out.
Yeah.
He
So
adjusts himself.
so even before I picked up the coin, I was safe.
Yeah, that's how that
And
how'd that feel?
it felt incredible because I was reading through the scriptures and on my tattoo it's a shipwreck with Psalm 91 and my player number 991. And verse 9 of Psalm 91 says, paraphrasing, but even though there's armies that are after you, they're going to fall at your feet, and I'm with you. So I just felt that security of the Lord through that scripture saying like I'm going to be here with you no matter what. But it felt like one of those instant deliveries of that promise of saying, 10,000 are going to fall at your feet. And just watching that coin go, and my heart sunk, but I was also relieved. And then I picked it up and I was like, now I'm realizing that the fate of these two gentlemen is in my flip. That I'm not deciding my fate, but I'm deciding between Gage and Mark, who are just amazing gentlemen.
Yeah.
And we bonded so much in that short amount of time. And flicked the coin. It was a very satisfying flip. It's a thick coin. And I'm sure you can even hear it on the show, but like you flick that thing, you hear the
Yeah, it's heavy. It's got some weight to it.
and it hit the ground and it also landed on tails. So the same coin that saved you was the same coin that saved me, and you and I both flipped tails. What are
Yeah.
the odds of that?
I know. I know.
And,
It's wild.
and Mark was really upset. Gage was relieved, but we didn't celebrate, because it's so heavy. And Mark stood there for a moment, and I respected that. He didn't rush over and just link himself to it because he processed through all of his emotions, I think. Seeing the dreams that he'd had, the hope that he'd wanted. And his big thing was, just like a lot of dads, he wanted more time with his family. He wanted more time with his kids. And,
Yeah.
to lose this game meant that, he had to go back to the 9 to 5. And, he's an incredibly talented guy doing amazing things, but that was ripped away.
Yeah.
And he
And
stood
just like
there.
that, it's literally within a split second, everything shifts, so I love the fact that he processed it.
I do too. And Jimmy was there and, was saying, like, look, you don't have to. You don't have to handcuff yourself. And Gage and I, we weren't saying a word. We weren't pressuring him. We literally just stood there by him as brothers and just let him do what he needed to do. And with a few minutes left, he handcuffed himself. And I remember, Gage and I left, and they wanted like an out process interview of, like, oh, how stressful was that to wait for Mark to link up? And I remember being frustrated. I was like, no, like he's a real man and he processed and he did exactly what he said he was going to do. And the emotions just started flooding. And then we go into the processing room waiting for a ride, and there's probably 20 people in there. And I just broke down crying. I was like, I don't know if anyone else needs to pray, but I need to pray. Do you guys want to pray with me? And I just started crying and just praying because, again, now I'm further in this game due to no skill of my own,
Yeah.
but the sacrifice of another. Yes, you can say that this is a social game, and yes, I did pick two honorable men, and yes, okay, so there is gameplay that way. But again, I moved on because of the sacrifice of someone else,
Yeah.
and it
But
was
again, Mark didn't
overwhelming.
have to. He did not have to do it.
Oh.
Jim, especially with Jimmy in your ear going, you do not have to do this. It's
Eh,
it was a wild game. I remember walking out distraught, and I like right when I walk out, Jimmy goes, "Hey, hey, hey!" And he goes, "Everything okay in there?" I'm like, "No, it didn't end well." And then I get out, and then once I'm off the set, everybody felt the weight of it. Not just the contestants, but the production staff. I remember um, one of the production assistants. I think her name was Anne Marie. Um, a little bit older than me. I just looked at her and I said, "Can I need a hug? Can I have a hug?" I was like, that's just, it was just, you felt so empty and dark inside. It was just it probably worked exactly as designed, but it was as a psychological experiment.
it really
And,
was.
I was, coin flip got me on the other end of it. But I'd say those 5 hours got me stronger and closer to Chris than, anything we had done in the past.
Yeah, and it was that the two sides of it. Like you said, going to the city, there was no jovial celebration. It was heartache, it was tears. It was intense. I remember hours of crying and hours, with people and praying with people about it. And but again, to your point, the bonding I was able to do with Mark and engage, solidified a friendship for life, where, Gage and I were tight before, but not to that level. So it was intense. And again, this is the Beast games. It was by design. They knew exactly what they were doing, and it was that playing of emotions. Like,
And
let's get you off track of the games and get you kind of, just enjoying yourselves and pairing up with your team. And it was an incredible episode to watch, and I was really excited to see how they would share it all. And again, this is just the beginning. This is episode 3 of 10.
I know.
And the things that are in store to come next are just absolutely mind-blowing, and a lot of twists and turns that I would have never expected. I didn't expect the next thing to happen. At the end of this episode, you see a helicopter come in, and this is the first time they officially tell us that we're going to an island. But now they tell us that they're cutting cutting us in thirds essentially.
Yeah. I
And
mean, and this was the biggest cut yet. And again, the the biggest dangle, the island. You get to go to a private island. Are you kidding me? Um, but only a third of you were going to make it. Like it
we
was. It was the tension was high.
Just crazy. But we're not going to get into episode 4 today. But this has been the Cubes and what it was like to turn down $1 million on the Beast games. And by the grace and love of God, both Jeff and I, by a coin flip, maintained our chance to continue to compete in this game. So we are still in it. We're heavy-hearted in the game, but we're still very grateful. And I know how grateful I was to see you come out of the cube. Our buddy Patrick, all kinds of amazing, amazing people made it through. Jordan made it through. Again, so many people that we can't even name. Like,
Patty, Brennan,
oh, so many.
Dallin, yeah, a ton.
And I think as this progresses after we go through each episode, guys, please put it in the comments. Like, we would love to diversify this out. If there's any contestants that you're watching that you're like, hey, I would love to see them on your guys' podcast. I would love to hear their feedback. Maybe we'll run through and do a season overview with some of these people. So please put their number in the comments if you don't know their names, but we would love to do it. If you are one of the contestants that is watching this podcast, thank you so much. Your family for life. And if you want to be a part of something like this, please put it in the comments. We'd love to talk to you. But Jeff, close us out and we'll get to it next week.
Yeah, episode 3 was a thriller, a psychological, experience like no other. I think episode 4 is going to be interesting too. So can't wait to recap that one with you. And you got to cheer us on.